What's happening, financial coaches? It's Pete here. I want to tell you a quick story that's going to lead into my recommendation here, and it's kind of funny. I've been a part of mentor programs, within the AFCPE with my college, Northwestern University. I've done it through Boy Scouts, and I did it. I participated in the program of previous employers, so I've been a part of like formal mentoring programs, both as the mentee and the mentor on both sides of it. And they've worked out fine. I've had some good experiences with them. But it's kind of funny because a friend of mine, a former coworker of mine, is running a financial well-being program, and he was actually telling me a story of he was kind of working with an employee of his that was very ambitious, very eager to learn the industry and improve herself. As far as I can tell, and she asked him, would you be my mentor? And his response was, I'm not sure that I want to take on a mentor relationship per se, but I'm be happy to meet with you and connect with you on a regular basis and see how things are doing and share any insights that I can and give you some tips or whatever it might be. And I thought that was really interesting because the reason he was reluctant to say pick up a formal mentor relationship is it sounds very burdensome in some ways, and not that people don't want to do it, but everyone's balancing their own personal life and family and their own financial goals as well as their work and and their hobbies and their fun things, and so to the idea of becoming a formal mentor sounds like something that's a big commitment, in terms of time and resources and effort. And so, I think it's carried that kind of burden for a long time. And in many ways, that's kind of how it was supposed to be, maybe a monthly lunch or whatever it might be, and a time to connect, and now maybe over Zoom. But as I was thinking about it, I have had lots of good mentors, single digit mentors. But I've had probably four or five over the course of my life and career, people who have been regular influences on me, and they have been great for, my personal development, but also my professional development and, in business and things like that. And what I realized is that the ones that were best for me, I didn't really have a formal relationship. When I first got into financial planning, one of the guys, Dick, was a great guy. He had been in the business for a long time. He was kind of sunsetting his career as I was kind of going into the career, and I remember just sitting down with him on a regular basis. I'd go into his office, we just talk for an hour or an hour and a half or whatever. If we were running out on errands or something like that, we'd go together and just talk. It was great. And you know, one of the things that I never did was sit down and be like, hey, knock on your door, sit down and, can I talk to you? And I'm looking for a mentor. And, would you be willing to take that on? It was just a situation where, when I had questions, when I sought out advice, when I had things that were bugging me or things that were confusing me or maybe needed a little bit of guidance, I just went to him with those questions and he was always happy to help. And in some ways he kind of stepped up and would be proactive and said, hey, if this is probably going to be something that's going to be difficult, and if you want one of my assistants or associates to help you out on it, just let me know. And and what I realized is that we probably had a tighter relationship than many formal mentor-mentee relationships, but yet it was never formalized in like this discussion. And I think what happens is that we don't need to have the discussion with someone who you see as a guide, as a role model, as an example, as someone who might be able to help you or lead you or guide you, or even maybe, network with, right? You can just do that by asking them the questions. And I think that's the best way to go. And I don't think that you need to have one mentor. And what I realized is that as time went on, I needed the advice from certain people less and less. I relied on Dick less and less, and especially as he was phasing out, right? He wasn't someone that I was going to be able to go to on a regular basis. And so, whether it was that type of business or other things, and I would ask people, about financial things. My father's been a great mentor. He was in the financial services industry for his career too, and so I've been able to kick ideas off him. But it's my father, so I don't necessarily need to ask him to be a mentor. But I had lots of other people, and the people that I think that have now referred to me as mentor, where it dawned on me, that I never said I'd be your mentor, but yes, we get together on a regular basis. I'm curious about how things are going in their job. There might be a generational gap between us, in terms of age. Some of these people could be my kids, but it's one of those things where, I think we all want to help. And the idea that if you're going to come to me and I'm going to make the time, you're going to come to me with a genuine request, genuine curiosity, I'm going to make that time. I'm going to help you however I can. But I think a lot of us don't want necessarily the obligation that might be implied when you say, hey, would you be my mentor? And so what I'm saying here is that I think people are going to be big helps to you. People who have been in this business even a short while, people who have been in this business a year or two. If you're just starting, that year or two of learning is going to be really important to maybe make your 2 years of learning 1 year or 8 months, right? They're going to be like, listen, here, I'll tell you what, don't do this, start with this, just do this, forget that, and it's just going to be so much help. And then maybe you get to that point where you're going to need someone who's been in the business 5, 6 years, right? Or maybe someone who's in a different business that is transforming, right? Someone who's gone digital, and that's something you want to do and might not even be related to your business, but those lessons can be learned. And again, I think the key is just feel free to reach out to them, ask them the questions. But don't necessarily saddle them with the idea of like, hey, can you be my formal mentor? And it's not that you can't use that terminology. And you might later say, hey, listen, I appreciate the mentoring that you've given me. It's great. As financial coaches, I think we are doing that. In fact, I kind of struggled one time with calling myself a financial guide or a financial mentor or a financial friend or peer or whatever it might be, because the terminology, the interaction is often very similar, right? So one of the things that I think is just, go to the people that might help you and just ask them for advice. And if that turns into another instance of getting some advice and maybe ongoing and a relationship, and a rapport, great. And if it doesn't, maybe you just got the answer that you needed at that moment. But I think sometimes we just worry. I think we think that the only way to get there sometimes is to really ask for that formal relationship, and I don't think it's necessary. I think just reach out with the questions, and you'd be surprised at how much that can blossom into, and often much more than if you had a formal relationship with a mentor mentee, which might be limited to once a month or once a quarter. That was the expectation for some of the programs I was in. It was every quarter a lunch, or every semester for the kids in the college, things like that. So just a lot of opportunity there, and I think a whole wide world of expertise, experience, advice, guidance, lessons learned, painful lessons learned sometimes that can really help you. And all you have to do is just ask. You don't necessarily need a formal relationship for it. So that's my thought on mentors. Hopefully that helps. See you later.